So, good morning, everybody. Welcome to New Zealand TechEd 2010. I am very excited today because we have a record number of international and local speakers. My name is Miguel Rojas, and for those of you that do not know me, I'm a partner technologies advisor with Microsoft New Zealand. I'm doing the session with Nathan. Actually, Nathan was going to do it, and I stole it off him. So I'm doing it today, so you're stuck with me. For those of you that came to TechEd 2009, you might remember that in one of the sessions, the remote desktop services, I made everyone come up, get up and shout Windows 7. We're going to do something different this year. So I do have a bit with Nick Boyer and Stu Fox that are running sessions at the same time. And we're going to do something different today. For TechEd 2010, we're going to get up and shout, I love Windows Phone. So come on, guys. Let's get up. Everybody, let's get up. On a count to 3, we're going to shout, I love Windows Phone. 1, 2, 3. I love Windows Phone. Thank you. You're going to need that energy to see all the stuff that we got for you in the next 3 days. You might have to go to the Windows Phone session and see. What I want to do is I want to thank our sponsors and our marketing team that have given us a number of wonderful prizes, such as a Xbox 360 that we are going to give away today. And also I have got some T-shirts here that you have to wear them at 1:30 every day and go to the Microsoft stand, and we are going to be giving a Xbox 360 every day. You have to decipher the code here and wear it at the same time. So every day at 1:30. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take you on a transition of how to go from Windows 7 into from Windows XP into Windows 7. How many of you are still running Windows XP on your corporate network? A few of you. So conceptually, we're going to show you how to take our users or our customers from the world of XP into the world of Windows 7 and the interoperability with the cloud. Our customers do have a number of challenges that they face today on client management, from the client management point of view. From the user's point of view, they actually want to have flexibility. They are bringing new devices, and we have new concepts that are actually coming into place, such as bring your own PC, and how do we deliver a desktop as a service. The Generation Y, the new kids on the block, they have a heavy relationship with things such as social media. And they want to apply those type of technologies that they are using the day-to-day into the workplace. So our customers, or the businesses, do have a big challenge on how do they give the users the agility to utilize all these technologies, and at the same time trying to actually keep the cost down. Also, they need to make sure that they have security, management, compliance into place. So these users can actually access the corporate infrastructure securely. I'm thinking about the infrastructure. We have to be able to take advantage of things such as virtualization, on desktop virtualization. And we have to have a correct infrastructure to satisfy these business needs. Last point we have to be able to have the infrastructure, or you have to think about how do we take those IT services to the next generation, to the cloud. Last year, or in the last 2 years, it's been a very exciting time for Microsoft and the industry in general. We have 2 releases, Windows 7, and we sold over 100 million copies worldwide with a satisfaction, or customer satisfaction for over 94%. So that was really, really good customer satisfaction. Also, Office 2010 and the new functionality of Office, and combined with SharePoint, it gives us a lot of functionality for both on-premises and on the cloud, with things such as Office web apps and SharePoint Online. And we can have the ability to access this type of data, or our data, with the same fidelity from a desktop, from the browser, or from a phone when we use SharePoint, for example. The conversations that we're having with our customers already happening on not if they will make the move into Windows 7 and Office, but it's a matter of when. And we have a number of technologies that we're going to be showing some of them today that will help us to actually satisfy those business needs. But first of all, I would like to thank our partners, those partners that were there with us when we released Windows 7. And many of you here, thank you. The same way that we actually have partners that help us or release Windows 7 when we launch, we have a number of partners that release Office 2010 as well. So once again, thank you. But deploying a new SOE is complex. We got a number of phases there. Starting from, we need to find out what type of hardware our users are running on our customers. We need to find out what type of operating system, what type of applications, the compatibility between the applications and the operating system. And once you actually have this discovery and assessment, and you get the compatibility right, the deployment can actually be so much easier. We're using heavy automated tools, such as Desktop Optimization Pack, or Application Virtualization, or the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, and System Center Configuration Manager. Without compromising, most importantly, without compromising user productivity. And Cordia, one of our customers, has achieved this. But deploying up to 800 desktops and notebooks on a very small period of time. So we're going to look at a little bit more into application virtualization today. And you can see that with heavily automation, we can reduce application life cycle from application compatibility testing all the way to application management, and we can reduce up to 27% of labor cost. This slide is based on American dollars, so we're talking about USD of about $82 per PC per year. That's very powerful. To help us understand a little bit more how we can actually do this, we got Brendan from our own team here as a Microsoft consultant that is going to take us to a journey of how we can actually achieve this type of cost savings and satisfy these business needs. All yours, Brendan.
Thank you. Okay, right. Oh, I got one solitary clap. That's fantastic. Okay, can I just get a feeling in the audience of who's familiar with Config Manager? A few. That's great. So you'll understand some of the things I'm going to be talking about. Am I on? I am on? Okay. We're really going to be talking about user centricity with the next version of Config Manager vNext. For those that are familiar with Config Manager, at present it is kind of hard to target users. Okay, most of the time we target machines to get through to the users, but if you've ever tried to target users, it's kind of difficult. You target a whole lot of MSIs at a box, you log on, software installs, and then you log on to another box and all of a sudden this software installs on that box as well. And it's not really a scenario that you want to be having to deal with. And there's a whole lot of smart things that you as an administrator can try to do to resolve those things, but it's a lot of time and effort. So with the next version of Config Manager vNext, you'll have this application model, okay, and it's all around user centricity. So I'll just give you a bit of a scenario before I jump into the demo. Just think of this. I've got a line of business application that has a client and a server backend, and there's a lot of data that goes between the client and the backend. Okay, the administrative intent for that application is on my primary PC, or the PC that I log on to most, I'm going to install an MSI. Okay, if I log on to a PC that isn't my primary PC, say my machine's been repaired and I've got to log on to someone else's computer, it's going to download and publish an AppV application on that desktop. Say then I go to a remote site, okay, and this client server app, transfers a lot of data, so I don't really want it to be transferring that data across the WAN. So I log onto a machine at this remote site, and what does it give me? It gives me a terminal services session, okay? So what we're doing is, our workforce is changing and the way they work, the devices that they use, the situations they use them, and Config Manager vNext has really been worked on so we can be flexible and deliver an application to a specific device in a specific location in the best format. So in saying that, let's just go into a brief demo. It's number 4, isn't it? Okay. As you can see, I'm running my demo on Hyper-V R2 Service Pack 1, so I've got dynamic memory running. Hopefully it doesn't bite me. Okay, let's just jump on to my Config Manager box. Just a couple of things. Obviously, if you haven't seen vNext, things have changed as far as the UI is concerned. It has kind of started to conform to the System Center look and feel. So you've got the Wonder Bar. You've got a lot of these getting started title screens, and you've got context menus and so on and so forth. So if I just jump into the software library, I've got this application management. Okay, so when I look at application management, I've got applications. So you can see there's applications and packages. Before we just had packages, and it was really just a bunch of files with a program or a script or whatever the case may be to run with those files. Now we've got applications, and applications is really just like global data. And if I just have a look at one of these, and it was so much better when it was high-def video on my laptop. So if I look at one of these, an application, down the bottom, okay, I've got summary information here. I can look at deployment types. Okay, so you can see there's 2 different deployment types here. I've got an MSI and I've got an AppV deployment type. So while the application is just global, really we've got all these deployment types, and through those deployment types I can target specific devices in specific situations. So if we just, you still use packages. If you do a migration from Config Manager into 2007 into vNext, it will come up as a legacy package. You might use packages for, say you've just got to package up a few configuration files for OSD or something, you still use packages for that. But as far as applications are concerned, they'll really fall under this application model. So what I can do here, if I just go down here and look at the MSI version, so a lot of things you'll see are familiar with the existing version of Config Manager. Persistent cache. There's been some tick boxes around peer-to-peer content distribution and stuff like that. The command line to run the application, detection methods to see if the application already exists on the machine. The user experience, whether it's going to install for the user or for the system. Then we get into things like requirements. Requirements and dependencies are the two features that are part of this application model, which really gives us the power to be able to target specific machines at a specific time. So I can go through, and you can see here that this application needs 100 megs free disk space. It needs to be my standard desktop, and it needs to be my primary computer. So your primary device is the machine that you log on to the most. Okay, so we'll kind of keep an eye on the machines that you're logging on to, and you'll have a percentage. So if I log on to this 70% of the time, it will be classed as my primary computer. We can actually force it and kind of force a user device affinity, but by default it'll use a percentage. So you can see there that this application, if it meets all those criteria, it will install on the machine. There's no dependencies in this one, so I'll just leave that. If I look at the AppV version, I can see things that are familiar with deploying a virtual application. Okay, so whether I want to load that application or cache it before I load it, and whether I want to stream it. Okay, so that's all different depending on the deployment type. What icons I'm going to publish. Again, we get down to the requirements again. So in this instance, I've said the requirements are it has to be a 64-bit Windows 7 client and install it if it isn't my primary device. Where we get into dependencies is important as well, because if I want to deploy a virtual application to someone, okay, there are some possible prerequisites that I'm going to need. So the AppV client is one of those. We're not going to be able to deploy the virtual application without the AppV client. And we can actually go and do like a nested dependency, so we can get the dependencies of the dependencies. So if you've ever installed the AppV client, there's a couple of other components you have to install as well. So we can link all those dependencies, and then before anything even starts to install or download, it's going to make sure all those dependencies are sorted out first. So we can just go in here, and I've done it twice, so I don't know why. But you can see here that I've put the desktop virtualization client on there. So if I just quickly go over to my desktop here. And get rid of that. Okay, so you can see here that Rich Copy, which is the application that I had selected, is actually a virtual application in this instance, because I set this one up not to be my primary device. So you can see here that we've provided these tools, these requirements, these dependencies, so you as administrators can come up with an intent of how you want to deploy applications to users and in different environments, and then use these requirements and stuff to make sure you target the right ones at the right time. And that's about it for me.
Thank you, Brendan. So, I don't have a mic, so I have to be around here. And I walk a lot, so I have to actually come back to the mic all the time. So we talk about deployment and fast deployment of Windows 7. In Microsoft, we deploy up to about 2,500 machines per day when we run our desktop Windows 7 upgrade. We use a heavily automated build using technologies such as application virtualization that we've just seen, desktop Microsoft Dev Toolkit,
which is really easy to do. It's a site similar to Dig, if you know that kind of metaphor of people saying I liked this and it kind of ends up in the main feed. That might send 2,500 people to our blog posts, and have them learn about something we've done. So that's a nice, easy way, especially when you're starting out and you don't actually have a big active audience, and actually pulling those people into you. Advertising, got it on the list, wouldn't recommend it in a hurry. Okay, comes back a little bit, I guess, to the New Zealand thinking thing again, which is, I talk with various advertising agencies, usually in the States, and say, hey, look, we're not a really big company. We just like to try and put some advertising out there, and they're like, right, cool, I'll put you on our starting package. That's $15,000 a month, and it'll be in low rotation. And you're like, wait, what? 15 grand? So what? 22,000 New Zealand dollars a month? Yeah, no thanks. That's not about to happen. I mean, that sort of money we could hire. Back to pirates. Okay, so we're talking about the code protection stuff, and I said we pretty much just obfuscate parts of our products to make them harder. There's still I think there's a crack for Lightspeed floating around out there somewhere. You just have to be really good at Chinese to work out how to use it, because it's only in Chinese on some Chinese website. In fact, we got an email once from a guy in Russia saying, hey, I really like your product. I'm going to buy a copy, but I just want to tell you that I haven't worked out how to crack this. And I would really like to write a blog post about that. Would you mind? It's like, yeah, we mind that a little bit. But, yeah, obviously, I don't know, must have been after some vodka. You should just be flattered. Okay, if people are trying to rip you off, they're always going to be trying to rip you off. Don't bend yourself out of shape, like I'm saying. Don't kill your business trying to stop pirates. So customer relations. Support is a massive, massive point of difference for a micro ISV or small software business, okay? We probably have more customers now because of our support than any other kind of relative marketing activity that we do. And that's because we are the only component vendor that actually does provide nightly builds of all our software.
I can't remember.
Was that off my Facebook page or something?
Maybe.
That's me in an F16. I was very happy. I actually spent half an hour waiting an hour waiting in line just to get in the F16. Anyhow,
Are you on?
I'm on.
Okay.
At least my thing's on. So I'm going to spend just 5 minutes just to talk about what RemoteFX is. I've actually got a deep dive sessions tomorrow to spend a bit more time on the architecture so you understand in depth how this thing actually works. There's 2 new features coming in Windows Server 2008 R2 SP1. One's dynamic memory, which you'll probably see a lot of good sessions on from Ben Armstrong, and RemoteFX is the other new feature. So what is RemoteFX? Think of a concept of where the server actually has a GPU in it that can be shared across multiple virtual machines to help us render a very, very rich user experience. Today's thin clients that you buy often for remote desktop services, the session host, what we formerly call terminal services, or VDI, often have a very high price point. Because in many cases, the thin client really needs a GPU on the thin client side in order to be able to render some of the content that's being fed out from the session host box, or if you're using Citrix, from the XenApp box. What RemoteFX will actually enable is the use of devices like this. This is a new type of thin client, an ultra-thin client, which will work with RemoteFX. The Australian makers of this company believe that they'll be able to get their price point down to around about $150 US. So the thin client cost is going to drop significantly with the advent of devices like this. There is no smarts in this device, fundamentally. It's basically RemoteFX on a chip, just receiving the RDP stream, decoding it, and putting it out to screen. There's no GPU in it, because the GPU is actually being delivered from the back-end infrastructure. So on the screen there, you can see my RemoteFX server. In fact, it's actually my laptop here. You can even run it off a laptop, albeit a fairly powerful laptop. So this particular laptop has a 1 gig Quattro FX video card in it. So it's not your average laptop. But you get the idea, right? So you can see the VM that I've actually got running there. I've got running dynamic memory. In a second, we're going to come back to this performance monitor screen, and we're going to see RemoteFX in action. You can see the GPU actually in action doing the work. So as I flick over to my RemoteFX VM, see that's my desktop there. This is my VDI1 VM, which is actually running RemoteFX. You see I get full AeroGlass capability. In fact, when I run the video, this is the Call of Duty Black Ops video. Hopefully there's no children in the room. So you see I'm running full video, got full audio, and to prove this is not multimedia redirection, you can see it's actually even previewing. So for those of you who don't understand what multimedia redirection actually is, come to my session and you'll see the difference between MMR and what RemoteFX is actually delivering. But you see I get full video capability. Now in this case I'm using a thick client, but of course I could be using this thin client, which I actually demoed at TechEd USA. We also get the capability to be able to do 3D applications. Now, unfortunately, I'm not connected to the internet, so I can't use one of my favorite 3D apps, which is actually the 3D Bing app. But we get full 3D application support. Now, this actually requires the GPU to even just drive that little card shuffle. And as we go back to the server, on the server screen, what you see there is the GPU spike. You see the processor spike, obviously, because there is some processor activity occurring. But you also see the compression rate spike up as well, because we're actually doing some really clever compression on the wire as well to make sure we keep that stream down as much as possible. So with that, I've just shown you a bit of a demo of RemoteFX. Come to my session tomorrow if you want to see a little bit more about it and how the architecture actually works underneath the covers, as well as some of the system requirements that you're going to need to be able to deploy this solution in production. And with that, I'm done.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? We okay? Good morning. Now, if you don't do that better, I'm going to make you all stand up and talk about Windows Phone. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, that's so much better. Yeah, my name is Jason Buffington, and I want to make sure that one of the things that was just mentioned isn't lost on you. Statistically speaking, 50 to 60% of all corporate data does not exist on raised floor. Now, your numbers may vary, but I bet not by much. Most data today, more and more, especially as we empower the desktop, is on your end users' machines, or it's in your branch offices. So when we start looking at data protection and retention and compliance, we have to do that not just from the server perspective, but we've got to make sure we're capturing the rest of the data that sits on the other IT assets as well. So, and can you click me one more slide? Great. So what we've done is we're going to talk about System Center Data Protection Manager for just a second. DPM 2010 just released at the beginning of this season, just last quarter. And so we're looking at here, and I've got a couple sessions this week, but you're seeing all your Exchange and your SQL and your file services, all the server-based infrastructure on the left-hand side of the screen. Now from there, what we're going to do is we're going to put one or more DPM servers into the environment. We're going to capture data at a byte or block level. So I'm capturing small changes within files. And then from there, I can hold copies of that data on disk for fast recovery. I can hold it on tape for long-term retention. And I can replicate that data from one DPM server, which is on-premise, to another DPM server, which is off-premise. So to kind of illustrate that a little bit today, I'm going to switch over. Hopefully this is my mouse and keyboard. Oh, cool, it is. And so I want to give you just a very quick overview. Again, I've got two sessions. The first one is Technical Intro to DPM. That's this afternoon. I'll be on the Office track tomorrow talking about applications like Exchange and SQL and SharePoint. And then back in the server track on Wednesday, talk about virtualization and disaster recovery. Well, what I've got already going is I've got a DPM 2010 server, and it's already protecting a lot of the servers within my environment. It's protecting some Exchange storage groups and some file shares and a SharePoint farm and some SQL databases. What I want to do is very, very quickly show you what that server experience looks like, and then I'm going to roll that back and show you the differences for what the client experience looks like, because that's what we're really talking mostly about today is empowering the client scenario. So to do that, I'm first going to create a protection group. And a protection group is just a policy that says, what do I want to protect and how do I want to protect it? So as far as the what I want to protect, this screen is new. We'll come back to it in just a second. We're going to start off, as I mentioned, with a server scenario. And here's all the servers within my environment that are currently running a DPM agent on them. I'm going to go ahead and expand one of the servers just to kind of give you a feel for this. This will take about 15 seconds. What it's doing is it's actually talking to the DPM agent, and then from there it'll expose any and all Microsoft workloads that DPM knows how to protect. Now, what that means is on any server I choose to protect, I can see any shares that are on that box. I can see any volumes that are on that box and go old school and grab directories and volumes, and that's nice. I can grab system state or bare metal recovery of that machine. But because my agent sees that this machine is running SQL Server, I can also go ahead and open up my SQL, and I'll see 3 instances of SQL that are running within my environment. Let's go ahead and open up one of those, and there's all the databases that I can do. Now, if you come to my Office session on tomorrow, we'll talk about some of the new options we've added, such as protecting a whole instance of SQL, enabling DBAs to recover their own databases, etc. But for now, I'm just going to pick 1 or 2 databases. I'll say next. Important DBs. I can protect that to disk or to tape. 5 days. So disk-to-disk protection in DPM is 2 questions. It's not overly hard. It's 2 questions. How long do I want to keep it? How often do I want to do it? So how long do I want to keep it? This seems a little short. So how about we say 30 days on disk? How often? Every 15 minutes. That's it. And we'll keep on going. Tape-based protection works about the same way. I'm going to turn these off to make it a little bit faster. Again, tape-based protection, how long do I want to keep it? How often do I want to do it? In this case, how about we say 7 years and a weekly tape? That's it. one or two more screens and we'd actually be done at this point. All I'd have to do is just go ahead and accept the rest of the defaults and I'd carry on through. It's going to hold the data on disk for 30 days, synchronizing every 15 minutes. The most amount of data that you have to roll back to is 14.5 minutes worth, and we're going to hold it on disk for 30 days. You won't need tapes for most of your recoveries. And then on tape, from a retention perspective, I'm going to do a weekly tape backup, and I'm going to go ahead and automate your weeklies and your monthlies and your annuals and give you a 7-year retention window. And you've seen I've clicked about 7, 8 clicks in order to get that done. So that's what we've done for server-based infrastructure. And come to my session this afternoon and you'll get to see more about that. But what I want to do is actually roll that back a little bit and take you through the same experience for what client looks like, because the experience is a little bit different. So to do that, I'm going to open up my protection group wizard again. But notice here, by the way, show of hands, who in here has used DPM 2007 in the past? Okay, maybe about 15% or so, 10%? All right, so if I look at the client scenario, this is a new screen for you. It's new for everyone else as well. So now what I'm going to do is I see all the list of machines again that I want to protect. Now notice here that unlike last time where I got to pick my databases or my storage groups or whatever I chose to protect, in this case, all I'm going to do is pick one or more Windows workstations. I'll say next. Now this is the new client experience for 2010. See, the problem, or let's not say problem, that's a bad word. Let's say challenge. The challenge with protecting client-based data is, and I should mention, by the way, I've been in backup for about 20 years, one company or another. And one of the problems that we've always had with backing up client-based data is you have to tell the users, hey, I'll back up your stuff as long as you do it exactly this way. As long as you put it in my docs, as long as you don't do this, and as long as you put your data here. We don't want to change the way the users work. So let me tell you what DPM does instead. You're going to go ahead and provide us the logical kinds of data that you'd like to back up. So for example, I want to back up my docs. Now that's great, and anything that goes in my docs from now on will get backed up. And I'll go ahead and say include on that. But I'll tell you, me personally, I'm really bad at not putting stuff in my docs. I leave stuff on the desktop quite a bit. I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Do you mind turning my feed down just a little bit? Thank you so much. Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and also pick desktop, because I put a lot of my data there. And I'll say include on that. Let's see, we'll add another row. You know what? I don't want your music, so I'll say music and say exclude. I don't want your videos, so I'll put that as an exclude as well. And then lastly, just in case the users are tricky, I'm going to go ahead and say I don't want MP3 files no matter where you put them. So now what I'm doing is I'm customizing the kinds of data that I want. Now here's the fun part. Notice that what I said was I want my docs. I didn't say I want C drive /users /jbuff, which is my name. Okay, all I'm going to say is I want my docs in desktop, and what will happen is the DPM client will go figure out where that is on each individual machine. Again, we're not changing the way the users use their data. In fact, I'll tell you, and me personally, first thing I do when I get a new machine, I move up my docs to D drive. So I can wipe my C drive whenever I want, right? This will find that. Most other backup solutions will choke and die. Okay, that's a technical term, by the way. All right, now there's one last thing. So for some of us in here, maybe we want to go ahead and create a policy, but at the same time, we also want to enable the users to have some flexibility. So there's a really cool checkbox down here that says allow users to specify additional protection group members. What that means is I can push a policy out that says I will get my docs, I will get desktop, I don't want music. On top of that, I can go ahead and let you choose to add additional directories as well. So as you've installed custom directories on your own, we can go ahead and enable those for protection similarly. You'll simply pick whatever you want. All right, so this is my important desktop data. And the rest of the experience is going to be very similar to what you saw from before. I can pick to protect a disk or not, to tape or not. I'll go ahead and do both. Keeps the demo looking interesting. Very similar screens here, so I'm going to go ahead and say I want to keep the data for 14 days on disk. And I can say synchronize, say, every 2 hours. So now I'm going to go ahead and protect that data. Now, one more thing that's important to note here. This very last option wasn't available on when I did servers. It says alerting option. Here's the trick. When you're protecting servers, we can pretty much assume they're always going to be in the data center, right? Most people don't take the server home at night. Can we agree on that? Heads nodding in an affirming action, except you, because you're going like this, and that's not nodding. But anyway, all right. So we know the server's going to be in the data center. Client, not so much. So one of the things we assume in the client scenario, and one of the reasons we had to wait for DPM 2010 to deliver it, is we assume you're not on the corporate network most of the time. So what this alerting option actually says is, it's okay for you to be away and not get a corporate backup up to every 14 days. That's what the setting says. Okay, after that, I'm going to go ahead and notify via email to the administrator as well as to the end user, and a little pop-up in the dialog box as well saying, hey, would you mind, please, turning on your VPN and your corporate connection, or come in the office and make sure I get a good backup? So I can set a threshold for how disconnected and how long these backups actually go. I'll go ahead and take the rest of the defaults. I've got a couple other options here. How much space do I want to assume is going to be available for each node? Do I want to do co-location or not? You'll have to come to my session this afternoon to talk about that one. Tape-based backup works exactly the same way. Which tape drives do I want? I'll go ahead and just finish this off so it can go ahead and light up for us. And say create. Okay. Now, if we'll go ahead and switch back to the screen, I don't have time right now, but I want to take you through it in the server session. One more key thing that hopefully piques your interest about this. And if you're taking notes, this is something you want to write down. The policy that we defined, so 14 days of backup, backing up every 2 hours with recovery points, say, I think we said 8 a.m., noon, and 6 p.m. That policy applies whether you are online or offline. Okay, what that means is when you're on the corporate network, those backups come to the DPM server. When I am offline, my own laptop has not seen CorpNet in about 10 days. Okay, those backups keep happening. They actually back up using a small hidden area of the local hard drive, which means that I can actually take the PowerPoint presentation that I worked on this morning and I can revert it back to what it looked like yesterday or over the weekend or last week when I was in Gold Coast. I can roll back to previous points in time from my laptop with no corporate connection at all. The backups and the recoveries happen whether you are online or offline. And then when I get back to my corporate network again, I can simply just plug back in, and the next backup will then go back to the DPM server. I'm pretty close to out of time on this, but come to the DPM sessions this afternoon and see what we've done new for client-based backup, for applications like SQL, Exchange, and SharePoint, as well as Hyper-V, including live migration scenarios and disaster recovery. Hope to see you guys later this week. Thanks, Miguel.
Thanks, Miguel. So probably some of you have heard of this new product called Windows Intune. It's going to be launching into the New Zealand market a little bit later next year. And it's really the first time we've taken our System Center products online. So this is a unique offering in that we're going to be delivering cloud management for Windows 7 products. And we're also including a license for Windows 7 inside the license of Windows Intune as well. So what you're looking at here, and this will probably make me re-authenticate, is basically the concept here is all I need is a web browser to actually manage my desktops. So it really means that as long as your PCs have got an internet connection, they can be managed. So this, I think, is going to be a pretty interesting offering for the small and mid-market sort of customers, the sort of customers that struggle to keep their server infrastructure up to date, the sort of customers that would struggle to actually roll out multiple versions of System Center servers. So it's designed to be very simple. I could be up and running in about 10 minutes. And so what you're looking at here is basically the overview where we go through, we do all the kind of standard things of allowing you to roll out software patches. We also have got a System Center Operations Manager agent down on the workstations as well, so that we can monitor things like stuck printer queues, if your disks need to be defragged, if your machines are running out of hard drive space. A lot of things are very, very similar to WSUS, Windows Server Update Services. So you'll see that the layout and look and feel of particularly things like the software updates, the reporting is very, very similar to what you'd be familiar with in terms of Windows Server Update Services. So I can drill in, I can create computer groups, I can find out if my machines have got particular problems. Everywhere inside the UI, I'm able to do search and drill down and find out, and very, very simply find out about my machines. We also include a fully managed antivirus, anti-malware, anti-spam, anti-malware, antivirus solution in this as well, and it'll all get reported back up to this console. We do alerting, including we allow users to request remote assistance from the administrator as well. And it's really the over-the-shoulder thing where both people can be interacting at the same time. One of the cool things that we do is we also do software and hardware inventory as well, so you can find out what you've got deployed. One of the other unique things that we do is that we allow you to plug in your licensing information. And we can tell you whether you've bought too many licenses or whether you're under licensed for the products that you've actually got deployed in your network as well. We also have policy, and one of the unique things about this policy it is it is totally decoupled from group policy and Active Directory. So we think that one of the things that people are going to be able to do with this is to very quickly buy another company, take over an acquisition, and very quickly roll out management infrastructure onto those networks, because it doesn't really matter whether the workstations are domain joined, work group, etc. It all just works. We also can do reporting as well. And there's also a partner angle in this as well, where we really set this up to allow partners to offer a managed service provider type of solution, and we can basically have a roll up here of all of the different customers that a partner might be running. I'll be doing a full 1 hour session on this later on this afternoon. It's the last session of the day today in NZ3 just over here. So I'll be doing I'll do a much more comprehensive demo and also talk a lot more about the architecture behind Windows Intune as well. So thank you.